Do you want some quick and easy board games that you can play either at home with your family or get as gift for your friends and other people around you? Do you want games that are quick to learn, quick to play, and not too complex, but enough that gives you some of that amazing fun that you can actually get from proper board games, not the kind of ones like Monopoly that lead to chaos and confusion and In this episode, I'm going to show you all the various different games I love to play with my little kids and that are absolutely suitable for children of really young ages, a little bit older, and for those that want a real challenge moving forward, and even suitable for the adults and playtime at Christmas parties, birthday parties, and other kind of situations and stuff. And these will keep your kids off their screens as well. I guarantee you there are going to be some games on this list that you've not heard of, and all of the games on this list follow my simple rules of being able to quick to learn, quick to start playing, and generally have a playtime of less than half an hour or so. So let's take a look at all these various different games, and if you want links to any of them, check out down below in the description as you'll be able to grab them there. Some of those links are affiliated, so I do get a small amount for you purchasing through those links. Alternatively, just search for the names on Google if you're not happy to do that, but it does help me continue to create great content for you. And if you have found this useful, definitely leave a like down below to let me know if you like this content and stuff. First up, we're going to get started with games for your really little ones. Yep, so this is for the really young children, generally the 3 to 5 year olds, and there are actually some really cool board games that exist for this group. My go-to favourite for all of these type of board games is a company called Orchard Games. They make board games that are fun and engaging and very colourful. We're not just talking snakes and ladders, but we're talking various other types of games as well, which will help to teach your children really simple, basic skills that they will love to play and learn with as well. Such as their bestseller, Shopping List. Shopping List is a memory game whereby you basically have a list in front of you, and that can be a written list or a smartphone list even. Yep, they're modern and all that kind of stuff. And you basically have loads of different tiles underneath you that you then use to match and to basically create your shopping list. It's a memory game, turn over, put it back if it's not on yours, and hopefully somebody else will be able to get it. First person to complete their list wins. The instructions are on the back. It plays 2 to 4 children, 3 to 7 year olds, and it's great fun. My kids loved playing this game when they started learning board games and stuff. So do check it out. Alternatively, if you're after something a little bit more interactive and noisy, then check out their fan favourite, and my favourite of theirs, Tummy Ache. So I've been playing this with my children since they've been about 3. It's effectively a matching game whereby you have a plate in front of you and you're trying to create the best yummy plate. However, you've got to be careful making sure you don't get the items that are going to give you a tummy ache, as it says to shout out during the game. The game parts are nice and big and they've got a really good feel to them. So we've got 2 of them here. We've got plate of chips, which I'm pretty sure most kids would love to have on their dinner plate. However, you've got to be careful not to get some of the things that are going to give you a tummy ache, like the ones with worms in them, like this unfortunate piece of salad. The first person to complete a full plate of all the 4 different items wins the game. It's great fun, simple to learn, really quick to play, and actually a little bit enjoyable even as an adult. Orchard Games have various different varieties, and I definitely recommend checking them out if you want to look for games for your really young children that you want to start them on their journey with board games. And generally, given that most of them are between £10 and £15, these are excellent Christmas gifts for either your children or your friends of your family and that kind of stuff. Check out the links below, like I said, if you want to look at some of those options. Okay, now we're going for the 5+ little ones that you may have. So this is generally games that you can play for between 5 and 8 year olds, and there are some really cool board games you can have a look at. Dexterity board games in particular are one of the best ones for this because they can help not only be fun and engaging and a little bit chaotic at times, but also help to teach your children those fine and gross motor skills that can help their development as well. And that's one of the reasons why I love quite a few of the ones that we've got on this list. The first 2 we're going to cover are from one of my favourite board game creators, and these are UK-based company Alley Cat Games. They make some of the best board games I've ever played, including some really cool ones for little children. The first on their list is one called Kittin. Yeah, it's a game about cats in a tin. Effectively, you get a load of cats that you have to make into a tower, and the first person to do that wins. However, the tower has to be exactly as it says on the card. So this is one of them, for example. As you can see, we've got orange, yellow, pink and red cats piled up on top of each other. And basically, you have to make sure you get the right combination and the right way. First person to do it wins. And it's got some little pieces. Look at these. These are amazing, these little kittens and stuff. This is great fun with your little one. And if you're worried about them not being able to do it in time, one thing you can just simply do is get them to practice it and take away the time element. I did that with my daughter when she was starting to play. She still had loads of fun with this, and then gradually we sped it up, and actually she's now really enjoying this game and loves playing it with all of us, and it gets a bit frantic at times. Even with the adults, this can be a good fun game and a nice filler game that you're looking for, particularly given the fact it's on average about £11. Alternatively, if you want something a little bit more complex, but still suitable for your children, then check out one of the other games by Alley Cat Games called Tinderblox. Now, I love this game. It's small, it's portable, and actually I've even met the board game creator for this particular one. It's a similar concept in the fact that you're creating a tower of items. So particularly you've got these logs that you can see here, and you've also got these pieces of fire that you can see here in different colours, red and yellow. And basically you start off on the basic fire, and to build the fire you get some cards which give you directions as to how you make it, whether you have a log first or a piece of fire first and stuff. The trick is you have to use these really intricate little tweezers to build it first and then add it to the fire. They're quite cool, a little fun, don't grip as well as I'd like them to, and that's part of the challenge actually. The person who knocks over the tower is out. It's a nice, simple game, quick to play, and this really helps with that fine motor control with your little ones as well. Both of those games are readily available through Alley Cat Games, or you can buy them online through Amazon and other retailers. For my final dexterity-based board game, we're going to another amazing board game producer called Haber, which make the absolutely stunning Rhino Hero. So if you've not played this game, it is awesome. Kids and adults will love this game. The best way to think about it, think of Jenga mixed with Uno, and they've had a love child and it's got a rhino in it. It's awesome. So I've been playing this with my children since they were really small. My son in particular, me and him had amazing times playing this game. You effectively start off on a base card which asks you to build walls which look like this, that you fold in half, and as a result of that these create the walls. On top of that you have to put the roofs, and the roofs come in various different flavours. So this is what they look like on the back, but effectively each side they have different functions. So you may have plain roofs, you may have some roofs that allow you to place another one straight away, or some that have other functions. So for example, this one here is the one that turns the order of players back round, so they go, instead of going clockwise, you go anti-clockwise. Alternately, you may sometimes get a card that has a rhino on it. The key thing with this is that the player after you then has to put the rhino on top of the card and make sure the whole tower doesn't fall. Look at this cool little guy. How awesome is he? Obviously, he can destabilise the tower and it may come crashing down. The winner's the first person to get rid of all their cards. This is a fun, chaotic game that your kids will love playing. And as I said, adults will love this too. Definitely recommend playing on a hardwood floor or a sturdy table, otherwise it is going to rock and stuff. And see if you can beat the Rhino Hero challenge of getting over 13 stories. Apparently it's never been done. There is an expansion of this that is Super Rhino Hero Battle. It's got various floors and other kind of things, but definitely this is a must for any young children. It will cause mayhem, chaos, and you will love playing this with your children as well. As I said, Haber, who make Rhino Hero, also make loads of other really cool games, and another one that's really fun to play is Monza. So this is effectively a racing type of game. The cool thing about this, it plays up to 6 people, and it's a really good way of teaching planning mechanics to your children. Effectively, I'm not going to open it up, but you have a look on the back here, and you can see you've got a racetrack. You have various different dice that when you roll them give you different colours, and you have to try and move your car along based on the colours that you've got and the combination that gets you the furthest around the track. There's a couple of obstacles around this side with tyres and that kind of thing, and the winner is simply the first person to get around the whole track and to the finish line. Obviously, other players may block you, various other things that could happen. How are you going to get past them? That's the tricky part, but this is a great little fun game. But average play is about 15 minutes or so, and I've yet to have a game where my kids haven't loved playing this at all. Definitely check out the games by Haber, and again, the links for those are down below. So what if you want to play something a little bit more complex, but actually has great theme and gameplay and teaches special mechanics? Yes, there are games that teach your kids how to do things, and the best one that I've come across that does that is an awesome game called Labyrinth. Now this is for slightly older children in particular, but will definitely play with your young ones. So my daughter's been playing this even since the age of 4, and she loves doing so. Effectively, you've got this giant maze, and let's have a look at the back and stuff so you can see it here. So this huge, beautiful maze filled with tiles and stuff that you've got, and effectively you get to move the maze parts around using the little tiles, pushing and moving the walls around. Why is that important? Well, each of you starts in one of your designated corners as a wizard, and you've got 5 different treasures you need to collect. Obviously, they're dotted around the maze, and in order to do so, you need to move the things around to get to them. Each player gets 1 push to move the tiles and 1 movement, and the first person to get all 5 of their treasures wins. You can play this open so you can see what everyone's got, and that's really good to do for the younger children, or you can play it closed where you're not able to see, so you're not sure where they're trying to go. Obviously, every move may change the maze and therefore ruin your plans to get to where you want to go. This game is really a huge amount of fun. It comes in various different versions as well. So there's a Star Wars themed version, there's a Super Mario version, and there's also a 3D version where you've not only got the walls to play with, but you can go up as well. Bit manic and stuff. Great fun, and even adults will like playing this one with their children. Speaking of dragons, let's talk about one of the best games for young children, and that is something called Dragomino. So yeah, as the name kind of sounds, it's about dragons, and it's kind of about dominoes, believe it or not. The way that it works, you've got various different domino tiles that make up your communal pool, and you basically have to choose from them to match up the landscapes. By doing that, you then get to have some eggs. So I've got 4 different landscapes on these dominoes that you can see here. They're really good quality, really nice thick cardboard and stuff. And once you've got 2 that are next to each other, you then get one of the dragon eggs based on that landscape. So for example, if you've got 2 of the rock ones here, you can pick a rock dragon token that looks like this, and that's the egg that you can see there. And basically you then flip it over and hope you get either a dragon, or if you're unlucky, you may get a broken shell. And the thing with that is the person who's got the most dragons at the end of the game wins. Just like in dominoes, one of the ends of the tiles has to match. After that, it doesn't really matter. And some of the different combinations work more effectively. So for example, the sand and ice tiles tend to have more broken shells, but there's lots more of them, compared to the lava and rock ones, where there's a lot less of those particular tiles, but more dragons per egg ratio. This is a great game that helps your children learn about planning mechanics within a game, and they will love the theme. It's based off another game that we're going to cover a little bit later on, which is probably the slightly more adult version of this. I rarely go a week where my daughter doesn't want to play this particular game. But what if you want a board game with more chaos, more fun, shouting, and action? Well, how about we go to cats again and talk about ninjas? Yep, we're talking about the absolutely stellar Cobra Paw. So Cobra Paw is a fun little game. It's kind of based off dominoes, and technically you could play this with a pack of dominoes and a couple of dice. Inside you've got various different tokens and chits that have different markings and colours on them, such as for example like this. And you place these in the middle of everybody. Next, you roll the 2 dice that you've got here. Whatever combination comes up, first person to grab the token with that particular combination gets to keep it. Have to get your finger there first. That's why you got to ninja it effectively. That sounds cool, right? However, what you can do as the game develops, you can also steal or ninja the tokens from other players, in which case nothing is safe. First person to get 7 tokens wins. I must admit, for really young children, and you can play children 3 years and plus with this particular game, I take away the ninja rule from other players, just because otherwise you may end up with some tears and stuff. But it's still a great and awesome game and plays up to 6 people. If you want a fun and chaotic game for your family, definitely check out Cobra Paw. It's still one of my best recommendations I've given to many, many other families. And finally in this section, when we're talking about board games for younger children, we're going to talk about one of the Spiel des Jahres nominees. What is a Spiel des Jahres? Well, think of it as the Oscars for board games, and this game got nominated for the Kids Award a couple of years back, and it's called Go, Gecko, Go. Now this game is going to take a little bit more space on the table, and this is probably better for your 6+ children in terms of playing with it, but it is absolutely awesome. If we have a little look at the back, as you can see it's got lots of contents in it, but you effectively have this swamp map that you create, full of tokens, and it's got a similar push tile mechanic that you saw in Labyrinth. You basically take a tile and you push forward, hoping to move your animals ahead. Why is that important? Well, let's have a little look at them, shall we? You've got 4 different animals that you can play with. So we've got the crocodile, the tortoise, the frog, and the lizard. And they start initially on top of each other. As you roll the different colours, you can move one that you choose, or you can roll a rainbow and choose which one you move forward. And the aim is to try and get them through to the other side of the swamp. However, you've got different barriers at different heights, depending on which version you want to play. And then as a result of that, you need to get them under it. You can push under, that's easy. Alternately, you may have to get them to fall down in order to get behind, and then that has an implication because you can't put a bigger one on top of a little one because it'll squish it. It's a really fun mechanic that plays really well over time. and your children get tons of replayability given the fact you've got different levels that you play with each time, and some of the catch-up mechanisms, like for example the fact that you have a sunlight rule that means you can move ahead quicker with your animals. I play this game various times with my children. My son in particular has loved playing this game over and over again, particularly when he's got his cousins around. It does take a little bit longer than some of the other games that I've just shown you, so the average time I found for this particular board game is 20 to 30 minutes, but you'll have loads of fun with your little kids on. Now, just before we go on to games that are going to be for the slightly older children, the 8+ and that kind of thing, as well as awesome for you adults and parents out there, I'm going to cover an unusual category of games, and that's the solo and cooperative games that you can play with your little children. Cooperative games in particular have really taken off lately because the fact there's no winner means you're playing against the game, and that means there's less chaos, less arguments. That can be a really cool thing, and particularly if you've got a household where everybody likes to argue about the winner, these may be the better ones for you to look at, because then at least you won't have that element to deal with. They are also absolutely buckets of fun. I'm going to share with you 3 games that can either be played solo or cooperatively. The first is definitely suitable for your littler children, and they can end up spending hours effectively playing with this, and that's Rush Hour by Thinkfun. It's basically a puzzle type of game. It does travel quite nicely, although maybe cars may not be the best option. And as you can see, you've basically got this parking lot, and you have to try and get the red car out. And can't really tilt it as much, but there you go. As you can see on the instruction cards, it's locked in, and you can only move the cars up or down, left or right. But as you can see, it's a bit blocked here, the red one. So you have to figure out the pattern to move the car out. This is a rather simple one. As the game progresses, you obviously get more and more complicated mechanisms, and the parking lot gets more and more full. And then the question is, can they do it? You can leave your children to play this game, and they will play it loads and loads. Alternatively, you can even play with them to help them understand how to do that. And particularly for the younger children, I would recommend doing so. But they will get loads of fun from this, and it keeps them away from the tablet. Let me understand it. Let me be clear on this point. My son has played this for hours on end instead of playing on a screen. That is a win, definitely. However, if you've got more children and you want them to play a cooperative game, or you want a different type of game with a bit more of a challenge for your kid to have a go with solo, then definitely check out the game Bandido. So this is a pocket game made by a company called Helvetic, who makes some really nice, simple little card games that come in this similar style of packaging. However, I found Bandido to be the best one of the lot, particularly because it does play solo. So, Bandido is a criminal who's been locked up in prison, and he's trying to get out, and you have to figure out how to block him from doing so. How are you going to do that? Well, each round you get 3 different cards, like these, and they have various different functions. So they could be the rather simple turn and bend, or you can have more complex ones with lots of different exits and stuff. And the key thing you need to figure out is, how are you going to block him? Well, you need to try and make loops, pathways and tunnels that basically stop him from escaping. You do also get some of the torches that help you block him in completely, but there's not many of these. This is actually a little bit of a challenging game, and when played cooperatively, it's you versus Bandido, and this will help your kids have great fun. Adults alike, got them to play this with their grandparents as well, and they've had loads of fun. The only downside to Bandido is you do need a large space to play on. So either a really big table, or typically a floor space, and hardwood floors work a little bit better in that sense because you get less of the turning with the carpet and stuff. But it's still an awesome, awesome game. And generally you can get this for about £9. So an absolute bargain of a way of keeping your kids occupied and letting them have fun. And for the final cooperative game that actually I recommend every family to have, it's a game called Outfoxed. So this is a game that probably you could think of similar to Fantastic Mr. Fox. Effectively, the fox has stolen the pie and you're trying to figure out which one of the foxes did it. In order to do so, you've got various different things that you can do. So you can either go hunting for clues, which look like these little things, and they've got a weird design. Why? Because they fit into the weird little codex that you've got that helps you figure out which thief it is. So you've got thief cards that you place into the codex. As you can see, it's got various different patterns on it to help you code it, because when you pull it out, it tells you where they are with the clue and stuff. Alternately, you've got suspect cards that are dotted around the board game, and these have various different items on them to help you figure out which one it is. But you need to discover which suspects are available and also which clues you need to get. So you need to decide, do you go for a clue or do you go for a suspect? Each of the players gets their own choice. You roll 3 dice. If you get the same icon on all 3, then you either get to go for a suspect or for a clue, depending on which one you've already called. So you need to call the right one before you even try going for them. This is a great fun game that I've played with my children various different times, and they love playing it over and over again. The fact that you're playing against the game is the best feature about this particular aspect, because you're not playing against each other. There's no arguments about that, and you're trying to beat that fox. Average game takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and this will keep them occupied time and time again. So that's the solo and cooperative games, and now we're going to have a look at various different games that are more suitable for the 8+ age group and that can be played with adults aplomb, and you're going to have so much fun playing these different games. Many of these are gateway games that lead on to different types of board games and their mechanics in particular, and some of them are award-winning as well. But the first one we're going to have a look at is Sushi Go. So it's a nice little portable game. It's basically a deck of cards, but have a really cool mechanic, similar to Rummy in a sense, because you're trying to create different sets, and the different sets allow you to get different points. So for example, if you've got 2 of the tempura cards in your hand, you get 5 points. If you've got multiple different dumplings, you get more points for the number of dumpling cards you've got. Nigiris are cool, and they're tasty, and they get you different points, but if you match them up with a wasabi, you triple the number of points that you get. My daughter's favourite marquee rolls get you different points depending on the number of marquee rolls at the top that you've got in total. And the sashimi, get 3 of these and that's 10 extra points. That's loads. But how do you get the cards? Well, each player starts with a certain number of cards in their hand, depending on the number of players. You pick one, pop it down, flip it over, that's the one you get to keep, and you pass all your cards to the person on the left. They then choose from those, and it keeps going round until basically there's only 1 card left and that one gets discarded. So you need to be careful because you may not see some of those cards back again. That's the decision you need to make. Do you want to pass that sashimi on to your player on your left? Are they collecting them? Or do you want to stop them from doing that? All those different decisions help. You play over 3 rounds, and the person with the most points at the end wins. One tip I will give you for this particular game, look at some of the apps online that help you do the scoring. You do get some papers within it to help you do the scoring, but actually I've personally found that this is a much better way of scoring. This is a great little portable game and one of the best for showcasing the whole concept of closed hand drafting, which is a mechanic within board games that I absolutely love playing. If you want more of a challenge, look at another game called 7 Wonders that is the best when it comes to hand drafting in my view. However, that doesn't make this list because it takes a lot longer to set up and a lot longer to play. Next, we're going to come to a game that may be hard to find, but definitely worth it if you can get a hold of it, and loads of fun. And that's a game called Mountain Goat. So in this game, you basically get various different cards that act as the hills, and you've got paths to those hills. The higher the number, the less number of paths. And effectively, you start off at the bottom of the hill with your various different goats, and you have to move up. How do you do that? Well, you get 4 dice each turn, you roll, the combination of those dice allows you to choose which hills you want to move up on. Do you use 1 dice just to move up the 5 hill, or do you use 2 dice in order to go up the 10 hill? The reason why you want to be at the top, when you get to the top, you get a token for that particular number. So for example, if I've gone on the 7 hill, I'll get a 7 token. If you happen to roll a 7 again when you're at the top, you get another 7 token. If you're the first person to get all the tokens from the top of the hill, then you'll get a bonus token, the number 15, and there's decreasing numbers for each person who does that after that. The winner is the person with the most token points at the end. It's a fun and frantic game, and you may not be able to work out who's winning until the very end, which is a nice part of the game that I think is really fun. I've introduced this game to many people over time, and they love playing this, particularly with my nieces and nephews. They've had great fun playing this particular game. It is a little harder to get than some of the other games on this list, so do check out the links down below, which is not affiliated, which will take you to a website that helps you search for where you can purchase it from currently. The next game I'm going to talk about, unfortunately, is one I don't currently have because I've lent it out to friends, and that's Game of Thrones Hand of the King. In my view, this is one of my most favourite games. It kind of plays a little bit like chess, and you don't actually need to know anything about Game of Thrones to play this game. It's a set collection game based on having a board of 6x6 cards, which are the various different characters from Game of Thrones, but like I said, you don't really need to know who they are. That's because they're all allocated to houses, and your role is playing as Varys, the guy who is moving around the Master of Whisperers, collecting different people from different houses. Varys can move orthogonally, which basically means to go up, down, left or right, and as he moves in those directions, he collects all the people from a particular house that you choose to collect. The person who's got the most members from a particular house gets their banner. The person with the most banners at the end of the game wins. An additional nice mechanic is that if you claim the last member from a house on the board, then you get to take a companion card, which can be really powerful and give you extra powers. This can really help you in terms of the different powers that they have. For example, as you probably imagine, Jon Snow, pretty powerful card. An average game will play about 15 minutes. It's great as a 2-player game, plays a lot like chess in some ways with a strategy involved. For 3 is absolutely awesome. 4 is fun, but I sometimes tend to think the downtime in between makes it a bit slower. This is an awesome game and absolutely one of the best ones I play on almost every board game night going. Next, we're going to talk about a board game series, and that's called Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is one of the best open card drafting games around, and in my view, absolutely should be had by every single person as one part of their board game collection. There are various different versions. The original one plays a map in America. My personal favourite is the Ticket to Ride Europe, because it's got some nice extra mechanics. However, the downside to Ticket to Ride Europe is that it can take a while to play. You're talking on average about 40 minutes to an hour at least. So if you're looking for a quicker version to play, I would highly recommend Ticket to Ride London. So as it sounds, it takes place in London and you've got buses instead of trains. It's a smaller map, so therefore it does play a lot quicker. And it's got a nice little mechanic about using the different districts to gain extra points, but stays true to the original mechanics of the game. I play this often with my little kids and particularly my nieces and nephews. They prefer this to the bigger version because since it's shorter, it keeps their attention. Average game is about 15 to 20 minutes. You will love playing this game. And given the fact it's on average about £15, really no reason not to grab a hold of it. And if you are interested in seeing the links for that, check out down below. Now let's talk about some kings. Yes, some board game royalty. And effectively the first one we're going to talk about is the Smash Mouth game, King of Tokyo. So this is battle heavy, intricate, and it's actually based off a game called Yahtzee that many of you may have heard of. The board is really basic. That's it. Effectively, you're either playing inside Tokyo or outside Tokyo, and you then have to decide what you want to do from there. What do I mean inside and outside? Well, your characters kind of look like this. Yep, a giant lizard. How cool is that? In addition, each player gets a lovely player board that keeps track of your life points and your victory points. And it's got some awesome dice in the game, which basically look like this. So effectively, you roll the dice. Depending on what numbers you get, they may allocate you different points. So you need to get 3 of a matching number to score a point. So if you get 3 1s, for example, you get 1 point. If you get 3 2s, you get 2 points. 3 3s, which is the best one you can do, you get 3 points. If you got more of the number, you get even more points. Alternately, you may roll hearts, which help to replenish the energy that you've lost. You can roll for attack points, for example, that will let you attack those people not in the same area as yourself. Or you can roll for lightning, which is the currency, and that will allow you to buy the cards which make this game really fun to play. These cards give you different abilities depending on what you want to do, and the combination of that with the attack side of things can be really fun to play. If you are playing with littler kids, I would recommend taking the card element away, because that can therefore make it easier for them to play, because it's just about the rolling and stuff, which is what they love. And I find that this is a fun game to play with any children, and especially with the adults as well. I do tend to find if you play 4 players plus, it gets a little bit slow and can particularly not keep the attention of younger children, but it's still an absolutely awesome game and definitely part of board game royalty in my view. Hence the name, King of Tokyo. But if we're talking about true kings, then let's have a look at Kingdomino. So Kingdomino is an amazing game, and it's a Spiel des Jahres winner back in 2017. It's based off dominoes, yep, similar to Dragomino, but has a different mechanic in the fact that you're trying to make a 5x5 grid of your dominoes, and basically that allows you to then get points depending on which types of dominoes you've got. Continuous land masses, so for example if you've got wheat or if you've got river, then they get you more points, particularly depending on the number of crowns that you've got. It's got a nice little mechanism about how you choose who takes which particular dominoes, and an average game can be 15 to 20 minutes or so, playing 2 to 4 players. Quite rightly, this game is amazing, and it's had loads of spin-offs, including the Dragomino version that we saw earlier, which is for younger children, but also you've got Queen Domino, Age of Origins, various other parts that make this game absolutely awesome. And it's based off dominoes. Can you believe it? I show many people how to play this game, and every single time they keep saying, let's bring it back to the table next time round, so you will not regret playing this game. In a second, we're going to talk about party games and games for lots of different players, but just before we do that, we have to talk about one more game, and that's Splendor. I've often talked about Splendor. It's one of the best simple engine-built mechanic games around, and you will love playing it. You basically collect tokens, which are jewels, and these allow you to buy other cards that are on the table, aiming to go for the higher ones, which get you more points. If you get particular combinations, you can then potentially get the noble cards, which get you even more points. First player over 15 points wins. It's a great mechanic and builds on the premise of engine building, so how can you create ways to buy more cards? The base version, which is this one, won the Golden Geek Award back in 2014. However, there is a new version of this which is probably even more fun. It's the Marvel version of this game. It is amazing. It's got an extra slight little rule about how you play, and that does make it so much more fun, and the theme of playing with Marvel characters for me is absolutely awesome. Whichever version you decide to get, you will not regret having this game. Really good at 2 players. Best, again, I find at 3 players. 4 can get a little slow, but still amazing fun. So definitely check out Splendor. And now we're going to talk about the games that you want to play when you've got lots and lots of people around. This is perfect for Christmas parties, birthday parties, all that kind of stuff. And in these games, you will absolutely have loads and loads of fun. First up, I'm going to talk about a game that has loads of people always in stitches, and that's a game called Werewolf. Now, I'll be honest, you're going to struggle to find this particular version because this is a handcrafted, limited edition version of the game. It's effectively a deck of cards, but there are various other versions like the One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which has various different types of it, like aliens, zombies, etc. And I'll put the links to the various different options you can have a look at down below. Effectively, it's a social deduction game based off a word game called Mafia. You play with the different characters. One person is the narrator explaining the story, which is basically you've got some wolves around, you need to figure out who they are. Some people are secretly wolves, some people are villagers, and some villagers have special powers depending on their abilities. Each round, one of the wolves decide to kill one of the players. That's not fun, is it? But actually, it adds to the mystery and intrigue. Can you figure out who are the wolves? Will the villagers accidentally mob the wrong person? Will the player powers have an impact? This is a game you can play over and over again, and playing it with a group of friends that you know in particular can be hilarious. It's a great team building game as well. Highly recommend having a go at this. Watch the sparks fly. Alternatively, if you want something that's got some really cool mechanics within it, then have a look at a game called Randomise. So I was shown this by one of my friends, and so good that I went out and bought the copy pretty much the following day. You play as 2 teams. Effectively, you get a clue on your card, and then you have to choose whether or not you want to describe it, draw it, or act it. And each one gives you different time frames to do so. If you manage to do it, you get points. You can choose to go for easy or hard. And basically, the team at the end with the most points wins. This is hilarious. It's like a combination of Pictionary, charades, and taboo all in one. And it's such a tiny little box. Definitely portable, great for nights out with friends and stuff, and definitely suitable for parties at Christmas. So we've got 3 more games to talk about, and if we're talking about party games, you cannot miss out that discussion without talking about Codenames. Codenames is one of the best party games around in my view. It's really simple mechanics. You basically have a grid of 5x5 words in front of you. You play as 2 teams of spies, and one person plays as the spy master trying to give the code to his or her team. Really important that you give the right clues because you don't want your teammates to pick one of the other team's codes by accident, helping them, or worse still, pick the double agent, which will then get you to lose the game. But how do you give those codes? Well, unfortunately, you're restricted to only giving 1 word and 1 number. That word can't be from the board itself, and it can't be from the same family of words, for example. Can't be abbreviations, and there's a few other things you can't do as well. And the number relates to the possible number of words on the board that it might match up to. Playing over various different rounds, the question is who can get to all their words first. This is a manic game and loads of fun. Playable with children. It's got the Disney and Marvel versions as well if you want to play for younger children. But actually, no matter what you do, this game will always give you loads of laughs. For those of my friends that play this with me, all I can say is car 2, car 2, car 2. There are other versions as well, so you've got a picture version for those that have the more abstract mind. And given the fact, if you're lucky, you can get this game for about £12 to £15. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. This will give you barrel laughs every single time. Next, we're going to talk about another Spiel des Jahres winner, and that's the game called Just One. So this is a simple word game whereby you have a word that you've chosen. So this is a simple word game. Effectively, there's a word that you have to guess from what your teammates describe to you. It's a cooperative game, so actually, you're not playing against each other. The trick with that is that all the words that your teammates decide to write down, before you get to see them, they share them with the other teammates, and then you eliminate the words that are the duplicates. That therefore means you have to choose a word that is helpful to describe what that word may be, but not so obvious that somebody else picks it, because otherwise you're out of the game. The turn player then just gets 1 guess to guess what that word may be. It's a lot of fun. I've actually adapted this to play this in a medical version to help GP trainees learn about jargon and various other aspects of things. And you can use mobile phones to act as screens to play with more players than the 7 it provides you with, particularly with the really cool implements that you get like the boards and the pens and stuff as well. Every time I play this game, it's been a barrel of laughs with my friends to the point where we end up playing it for hours on end. And I guarantee you will enjoy it as well with your friends and family as well. But if you want a game that is awesome at parties, has great implements, and actually uses the box as part of the game, then definitely check out Wavelength. So how does Wavelength play? Well, you have a spectrum. You get a card that has, for example, 2 different items on it, say hot and cold on either side, and then you have to give a clue to help your teammates decide where on the spectrum they want to put the board. What is the board? Well, it's this weird little device, effectively. This is the spectrum. Before you play, you spin this round, put it somewhere, and then close it up randomly. Then you have to give them a clue to help them decide where on this spectrum it may be. If it's hot, cold, for example, it may be really easy to come up with something that's super hot, like the sun, or super cold, like the Arctic. But what are you going to do if it's in the middle, like that one was? What's hot and cold, but okay for you? Oh, it can really be interesting. The aim is for your teammates to put the marker onto the number 4 if they can. If they do that, you get 4 points. If you go either side, you get less points. If you miss, you get no points. There is a mechanism for the other team to get some extra points, and there is a catch-up mechanism to make it fun as well. First team over 10 points wins. It's a simple game, but it gives so much fun, and I do mean so much fun. So if you want to check out any of those board games, like I said, have a look at the links down below. That will give you direction to get some of them if you want to. Alternatively, feel free to search for them. And I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration of the various different board games I think that you should look at for your family, particularly when you've got young kids and particularly when you want to start your journey onto board games. If you are a medic and you want to jump in and join us on Boardgame Medics, have a look right here. You can see the icon and check us out on Facebook. Alternatively, if you want some of those board games that I mentioned that are designed for doctors to play with and stuff, have a look at the links down below. I've got various ones that you can have a look at. Alternatively, check out this video that YouTube's probably showing you right now that's going to be absolutely awesome for you to have a look at.